First story. I returned from a 2-month work trip, and my delusional, cheating wife announced she was 5 weeks pregnant, so I divorced her. It's been 15 years. She's still harassing me, claiming I knocked her up and abandoned our daughter. But she refuses to have a paternity test, saying it's insulting. Now she's using her daughter to harass my son. I lost it. Buckle up. 15 years ago, I was 25 and finishing my contract, and my then GF of 3 years, Natalie, was acting increasingly strange. I came back from a 2-month assignment and was prepared to break up with Natalie. She came by and gave me the good news that she was pregnant. I asked how far along she was. She said 5 weeks, so I broke it off with her and told her she needed to do better at math. She refused the breakup and insisted the baby was mine, so I told her the following. 1, a paternity test, and 2, if the child was mine, we can talk about financial support and custody arrangements with lawyers. She refused both and told everyone we both knew that I was a deadbeat for knocking her up and leaving her. I told everyone I was on a 2-month assignment when she conceived, but a few insisted that, for the sake of decency, I house her and give her limited support. I consulted a lawyer about this mess, and the lawyer made it very clear that any overt support I give could be seen as me taking responsibility. So I told these friends that, and most dropped it, except one guy, who again insisted that charity couldn't be used as a legal cudgel like that. I asked him if he believed that he could house her. He agreed to drop it after that. The child was born, and not even going to do the whole, she didn't look like me because most babies are born with squished faces. And all I saw were the pictures she sent me with messages like, Emma wants to know where daddy is, and SHT. She still refused to take any paternity tests. But her constantly showing up with that baby got to the point where I filed an RO. Fun fact. In my state, a permanent RO is not, in fact, permanent. It is 2 effing years long. The only way to make it longer is if there was a violent crime associated with it. And apparently, bugging someone with a baby that's not theirs is not a violent crime. So my life for the last 14 years has been me renewing the RO every 2 years because, once it clears, Natalie shows up again with my not child. I did eventually find a nice girl and get married. And now I have a 9-year-old son, Henry. My wife, Kim, is well aware of Natalie and Emma. When the cycle begins again, I always say the same thing. 1, paternity test. 2, once paternity is proven, I will take custody and get financial support set up. Natalie always refuses and says both are insulting. Recently, the cycle started again, and this time Emma showed up first. She approached my son during a school event, a visit to the zoo, and said, "Hi, I'm your big sister Emma." Henry knew about stranger danger and ran away to a teacher. I had to have a very painful talk with the teachers and parents that were at the event about my relationship with Emma and Natalie, and how Emma was never my daughter. I even called her my daughter once or twice in the conversation. After the group disbanded, one of the mothers confronted me and said that while Natalie was in the wrong, telling this poor child I was her father and calling her my daughter was mocking this situation. I kind of get where she's coming from. I just can't help this child. And the honest truth is that playing light of the 2-year cycles is the closest I can get to finding peace in the situation. Edit. To answer the repeated question, in my state, the mother has to start the petition for the father to be established, and the test to start. There is no instance where a father can start the petition. There was a chance to do this when Emma was born, but the window was exactly 1 month, and I was much too focused on the RO, not thinking the paternity angle would bite me in the butt. One last time, to everyone saying, just ask for custody. That'll force a DNA test. It literally can't be done. I have been through this enough with a lawyer, and have consulted with other lawyers. There are laws protecting children, and a lot of them exist for good reason. I'll explain it the way my lawyer explained it. Imagine, there's a woman who ran from an abusive ex. She finds out after she escapes that she's pregnant. She gives birth, never puts the ex on the birth certificate, and never tries to file for support because she wants to get as far away from him as possible. He finds out years later and tries to rope her back into using the child as leverage. She can just say no, and the state has to let it go. There is, however, a provision, if the father was involved enough to know when the birth was, that he could submit his DNA to the state within 31 days of birth as a potential father. But that time has long passed. The law is designed this way on purpose. In the eyes of the family court, I am a random person, and I was never claimed by Emma. If you think the state wants all children to be claimed by fathers, and will gladly submit any DNA test whenever any potential father shows up, find a random single mom, call the family court, and say you want to claim her child. I am tired of everyone acting like all I needed to do was fill out one sheet of paper, and this nightmare would end. Please just call a lawyer for a free consultation or post on legal advice and ask them. It doesn't work that way. Relevant comments. Zalame. What really bothers me here is that an RO was in place, but Emma was confident enough to know she was approaching the right kid. Madness. Enta, at some point, it becomes draining, and the little girl is going to need some serious therapy after everything is said and done. Why don't you go to the courthouse and make her do one so it can come to an end? OP's reply. Because Natalie does not consent to it. And she said she's not seeking any sort of court-ordered support. So the court just shrugs and says, get a protective order. Lovescarats. You could get a court-ordered DNA test. Her claims are slanderous. You could take her to court to prove paternity. OP's reply. Natalie has long since stopped calling me out for being a deadbeat online. She prefers to show up in person, asking if I want to meet our daughter. The last time the cops confronted her about this, she claimed that she only wanted me to act as a paternal father figure to her child. It really depends on the cops that show up. Dappled Turnoff 0A. NTA. I can understand why someone would think that this is callous, but it's your business, and you've got every right to use humor to try to deal with it. Don't say that to Emma, considering that she believes your mom. That would be pretty rude. Now, the burning question. How did she find Henry while he was on a field trip? OP's reply. We suspect Natalie befriended a mom at the school and got a class schedule, then dropped Emma off at the zoo to be with her brother. Since we are unrelated, I have no idea what school Emma goes to or who Natalie's friends are. We are being very reactive to the situation. But because there are children involved, my lawyer said that that's the best we can do. And any type of investigation into Natalie beyond where to send legal paperwork could make it seem like mutual contact and hurt any future Rose. See still 5/427. I feel sorry for Emma because she's been brainwashed by her mother, and that's all she knows. She's innocent in this world, yet her world and her sense of identity seem likely to come apart one day. It must be a lie, not just because of the timing, but because the DNA test is such an easy and obvious way to prove it if she's telling the truth. OP's reply. The offer stays open until Emma turns 18. If she wants to contact me after she turns 18, I will offer Emma herself the DNA test and, depending on the results, act accordingly. Update. 2 days after the original post. I got off the phone with my attorney. We have a preliminary hearing on the new RO this week. We will most likely be issued a temporary RO. And then after that, another hearing for the permanent RO. CPS is investigating Natalie and Emma's living situation. The teacher's report held a lot of weight, and my lawyer thinks that this might actually be a way to end the madness now. In family court, for minors, there exists something that's like a temporary, court-appointed guardian. I think the term is guardian ad litem, who is only a guardian for legal purposes and procedures and decisions of such, including medical. If the family court appoints a guardian for Emma, we can ask this temporary guardian for the DNA test and get this put to ground. The madness might actually have an ending in sight. Adding here, I feel like I need to explain the relationship I had with Natalie all those years ago. When I got back from my 2-month assignment, I was already dead set on breaking up with her. Oh wait, I'm pregnant, was never going to make me marry her. In fact, I doubted she was pregnant for several weeks. In the last year of our relationships, several red flags appeared in her behavior, ranging from demanding I check in with her while at work, only hanging out with friends with her present, to extreme bouts of jealousy if I ever seemed too friendly with women, including waitresses. I was in a line of work that demanded my being away for long stints, which she hated, but also kept me out of her reach for long periods of time. I think it was halfway through that last year that I realized that when I was away, I did not miss her. In fact, I was relieved to plop into a cot and fall asleep after long hours of work without thinking about her. When the pregnancy turned out to be real, I made it clear that, with a paternity test, I would pay support, split custody, be a co-parent, and nothing more. She wanted me to be her husband. No question was asked. No test, just pure blind faith and devotion to her and the child. The test, she insisted, was insulting. There was never going to be a relationship, and there was no relationship to salvage with Natalie. On the advice of the first attorney I hired, the deal was no test, no contact. Relevant comments. The Crown and Anchor. That poor girl. She'll grow up either believing OP or having a deadbeat dad. Or she'll grow up knowing the truth and knowing that her mom is trying to game the system and get money from a guy who is not the father of her child. Either way, she's going to have a lot of stuff to work out in therapy one day. Frankly, I can't believe OP does not have any legal recourse to force a paternity test. You'd think there'd be one judge who was so annoyed with the constant restraining orders that he would have ordered a paternity test to rid the court system of this bullshit. Dizzy I5E257 replies. Also, that mom probably has a serious mental health struggle. She's kept this going for 15 years. A man in black adds. She only has to win a concession once to get child support garnished and start getting his wages garnished. That's why she's doing it. She thinks she'll get a payout for back child support and other benefits off his military pay and pension, insurance, etc. To which OP replies. This angle is actually very likely. I will bring this up with my lawyer. Also, good guess on the military pension. Summer Oracle. I'm surprised you can't sue her for harassment or potentially defamation. It sounds like she's now putting your actual child at risk, as well as escalating overall. Hopefully she doesn't start resorting to more dangerous tactics, but you may want to look into further protections if possible. OP's reply. This bit of harassment with a CPS report, and the new RO should, if we are lucky, be the kill shot we need. Curious Management 4 slightly downvoted comment. All you had to do was call the police when she violated the restraining order. That would have nailed her flaps to the wall, full stop. You want peace? Don't get a useless RO. Have the police enforce that SHD. That lunatic is no match for the police. OP's reply. She never violates the ROS. She harasses until one is issued. That's why we issue them to get peace. Curious Management 4 then asks the OP. And it works for the entire duration of the SO. Not even a hint of contact. To which OP replies. The first 2 times she broke the RO, she was punished accordingly. After that, she waited until the RO expired. Asleep Olive 165 the most downvoted comment in the thread. I kind of feel like an OP. Troubles have been karma for how he treated Natalie. Her behavior is totally unhinged, for sure. But if he had broken up with her, when he first felt like he didn't actually want to be with her, instead of stringing her along for half a year, and then basically accusing her of cheating on him, the Nodder wouldn't even exist. Essentially, this post is OP admitting that OP knows this child is his, but he's refused to acknowledge her unless his ex admits to cheating, thereby justifying him leaving her while she was pregnant, and trying to reduce his possible financial culpability. OP's reply. The nature of my job back then meant I was on assignment for weeks at a time, sometimes as long as 2 months. The amount of time I was home for the half year was small, and not all of it was consecutive. Also, in relationships, there are moments when you realize you aren't happy. You don't miss the other person, but it's still a bit of a fog you're working yourself through. Half-started conversation about where we see ourselves, and seeing if there was anything left that was dropped, etc. I'd like to believe I wasn't codependent then, but lack of sleep and lack of stretches of contact made it to the point where longing for normalcy meant longing for even the bad. Familiarity is a effing killer. That last trip was one where, during it, I steeled myself that when I got home, I was going to break up. Also, we were never going to be in a relationship afterwards. In the past 14 years, all of the friends we had as mutuals have worked their way out of my contact list. I don't see her parents, and she doesn't see mine. We have no social circles in common anymore. What does she have to lose by claiming me as the father and me taking the test? Public stigma. I wouldn't be talking to her friends. She can tell them whatever the F she wants. She could brag about how I caved, I wouldn't know. And I most likely wouldn't dispute it if I were the father. No, it sounds like you interpreted a very entertaining theory. Second story. My golden child sister thought she was entitled to my stuff with my mom's support, then destroyed my 9K PC after I refused to let her use it, thinking I'd cry and have a breakdown. But I filed a case, took her to court, and won. Now both sister and mom have a breakdown hearing the court order to pay 13K. For some context here, I am 19 and currently living in an apartment, and I am really close to being able to purchase my first house. I work for a big gaming company, as I'm a big gamer. But this story happened when I was about 17, still living with my mom and her golden child, a spoiled sister. So my sister was around 12 at the time of this story, and my mom always treated her like the golden child, the center of the universe. We'll just call my sister Jamie. Jamie always got what she wanted from my mom, but my dad is the only one with common sense and a stable mental state. My sister always loved to have things, and whenever I got something, my sister had to have it. She would steal from me. And because my dad was always at work and my mom was stay at home, I couldn't do anything because dad wasn't around. Our allowance was $50 a month, which I was very grateful for, and I saved most of it in a safe. But my sister always demanded more from my parents and me, and my mom would give her maybe $20 if she really begged and cried for it. But if I asked, I would be told to shut up. So, that's just one example of the spoiled brat treatment she got as a golden child. And usually, whenever Jamie wanted something from me, she just had to cry to her spawn point, and I would be forced to give her whatever it was she wanted. I would always protest, but mom always threatened me with grounding and no allowance if I didn't fork over what was rightfully mine. I would usually just tell dad when this happened, and since he was sick of my sister's behavior and the way mom treated Jamie, dad would either reimburse me with some money or go get whatever Jamie took from me and give it back to me. This is where it just went too far. I had just won PS5 from a YouTube giveaway, and the second I set it up in my room and Jamie heard the sound coming from my room, she rushed to see what the noise was. She saw the PlayStation. She asked for it, and I said, "Hell no, I bought this with the money that I saved, and even mom would agree with me on this." Yes, I lied, saying I bought it in the last hope that Jamie would leave it. She then went crying to mom, and I also purposefully waited until dad was almost home because I had a feeling this would happen, but didn't know if mom would side with me or not. So I made sure to wait, just in case. About 30 seconds after Jamie left the room, my mom was at my door. Jamie had a smirk on her face. Mom started demanding I give her my PlayStation. I started to yell that this was too far, and I spent my hard-earned money on it, and they can't take it away. Then I stated that I was sick of my mom's stupid favoritism and Jamie's blatant golden child treatment. My mom yelled at me that if I didn't give my sister my PS5, I would have dinner with her belt. And just as this was happening, dad walked in the door, heard our yelling, and came upstairs. Dad is a kind of gamer himself. He saw the PlayStation account screen and put 2 and 2 together. The first thing he said was that if mom gave sis my PS5, he would think about divorce, and he was also sick and tired of the favoritism. I gave my dad a wink over my sister's whining, and Jamie and mom left the room. My dad sat down next to me and asked about the PS5. I said I won it in a YouTube giveaway, purposely didn't tell mom or Jamie, and waited till it arrived to tell dad. He was proud of me and hugged me. Now, my 18th birthday is about 5 weeks away, and things have been more or less the same. At this time, for the last few months, about 4 months after the PS5 incident, I had been mowing lawns and picking up trash for the council to earn some extra cash. I had saved enough cash to finally buy the gaming PC I had wanted and had saved for about 9 years. With more modern parts, I had saved a whopping $9,000. Almost every time I get any sort of amount of money, I put it in the safe. So when my mom was taking Jamie to a friend's party, me and my dad went out to buy my first PC. I had been using a pretty crappy laptop as my PC for quite some time, and had a monitor, keyboard, and mouse. So I picked out the one I wanted about $7,500, but it was worth it. And when I took it home, I locked myself in my room. I had purchased a lock for my room 2 weeks prior. I spent about an hour setting up my setup in PC. I was so happy. And about an hour later, Jamie and mom arrived home. Dad met them at my door, and I shut off my PC and went downstairs. Me and dad asked for them to sit down at the table and have an important conversation. My dad said that I had bought something of serious value, and that if my sister or mom touched it, stole it, broke it, or did anything like that, I would be pressing charges. My sister's jaw just dropped to the ground, while my mom started yapping at my dad about why she couldn't play with my new PC. Me and dad both said that she kept stealing my stuff for years, and this was worth thousands of my hard-earned cash that I had saved for more than 9 years, and was of sentimental value to me. It really didn't surprise me, but when I got home from mowing a few lawns the next day, I found my PC's glass plate shattered, and all the expensive parts beaten with what was most likely something like a hammer. And for the first time in years, I started crying. My mom came into my room and asked what the matter was, and I shouted at her. "What the F do you think the matter is? You very well know. This is the final FC King straw. This has gone too far. I'm taking Jamie to court." And shut the door on mom's face. I called dad, still crying, and he just sighed and said, "Did it happen?" And I just said yes in another burst of tears. Dad came home with 2 police officers in tow. I'm going to cut it short because it's starting to get long. But we went to court and presented the case, showed evidence, and explained the golden child treatment Jamie would always get, and how I would be treated like crap. Long story short, I won. My sister and mom had to pay me $10,000 for a new PC and an additional $3,000 in emotional damages. I had never been so happy. I was free. Am I the jerk in this situation? Feel free to post this outside of Reddit. Just make sure to include me somewhere as the original poster. Third story. OP kicked her sister and her kids out of her house after she neglected and allowed her kids to bully OP's dog and ruin her house, all in the name of gentle parenting. Now her sister is realizing how messed up she is raising her kids after losing all her friends. My younger sister and her family, which includes her husband, and 2 kids 3F, 5M, were visiting my husband and me and staying at our home for a week. A little background. We don't live in the same state. I've had kids of my own, but they are young adults now and out of the house. My sister is much younger than me and is still in the young family stage. We've always had a pretty close and good relationship, despite our age gap. My sister does gentle parenting. I'd never heard of that before she came to stay with us, because I guess I'm out of the loop since my kids are grown now. She explained to me that gentle parenting means they don't take time out, don't do grounding, etc., but instead just talk about their feelings. I thought that was a bit odd because it sounds like there is zero discipline, but she didn't say anything as to not rock the boat. Until I saw gentle parenting in action and was appalled. During the first 2 days of their stay, her daughter drew on my walls with crayon, and her son pulled up flowers I had recently planted in my garden bed and threw a rock at my car parked in the driveway. To top it all off, they both kept constantly pulling my golden retriever's hair and hitting my dog in the face. My dog is very sweet and a little on the older side, so she's very calm. She never bit, attempted to bite, or did anything that would harm or spook the kids. In every instance, I was expecting my sister or her husband to discipline the kids. They never did. So I did. Or at least I tried. Just me telling her kids to stop or scolding them in the slightest made my sister lose her mind. She told me it wasn't my place to discipline them. I told her someone has to because they're messing up my home, but I agree it should be their parents scolding them. However, it seems their parents are not willing to. I told her they needed a fairly stern punishment for what they've been doing, and she started going off about how they refused to spank their kids like we were spanked as kids. I told her I'm not suggesting she spank her kids, but a stern talking to and making them clean up what they destroyed would be a good idea. She said what her kids were doing was not worth what I would call discipline. All she did in every instance was ask them, "What kind of feelings are you having that made you do that?" And that was it. So I realized this behavior was not going to stop, and my husband and I told them they needed to find a hotel or go home. Even though we had planned for them to stay a full week, we couldn't handle more than 2 days because of the gentle parenting. I told her that gentle parenting is going to cause her kids to have a very hard life and a rude awakening someday, probably even jail time. She argued back and really lost it when I told her. This hippy-dippy gentle parenting SHT is a scam and will ruin your kid's life, which I regret now but boiled over in the moment. Now she won't speak to me, and our mom says I'm in the wrong for kicking them out when they planned on staying longer. Am I the jerk? Update. I read the comments. It sounds like my sister's version of gentle parenting is not actually gentle parenting. However, the real gentle parenting lots of you are describing still sounds like an odd choice of parenting in my view. And if it were around when my kids were little, I can't imagine it would have worked on them. I guess this new generation of parents is just doing things differently. I'm not sure how that's going to work out in the long run for society or for each individual. The world isn't gentle. How are all these gentle parented kids going to deal with the real world when someone yells at them, or do any of the things gentle parenting doesn't include? If our world were a perfect utopia, then gentle parenting would sound great, but it isn't, and it's not realistic for me. I don't plan on ever inviting my sister over to stay at my home again, if her kids will be with her, that is, if she ever decides to even speak to me again. Even after all this, I do hope our relationship is mended because she is still my sister. She just can't deal with her kids. Update. Someone either sent my sister my original post or she was on Reddit herself and saw it. She texted me a link to my post and said she couldn't believe I was airing our family drama online. She told me she was leaning towards working out our differences, but now that I've posted it on here, she's done and blocked me. Since I can't reach her by phone, I'll address her here since she's clearly reading this. Allison. I do love you and have always cherished our relationship. But if you feel like you're done, then that's okay. I can't change your mind. Look at me talking about feelings. You should be proud. At this point, I'm pretty done too, so here it is. You are family. But that doesn't mean I am going to be a pushover and allow your children to behave the way they did in my home, especially pulling Bella's hair and smacking her in the face. That was animal abuse. It was all completely unacceptable. And I don't understand how you allow them to behave the way you and Stephen allow them to. Some people have suggested I send you a bill for the damage your kids caused. But I'm not going to do that. I'll pay for the repairs, but only because I know this will never happen again, since your kids are not welcome back at my home unless you drastically change your parenting style and finally implement legitimate discipline. I'm still not saying you need to physically discipline them, but you need to do some form of actual discipline before it's too late and their future is ruined. I don't understand why you have decided to be a gentle parent, or whatever your form of gentle parenting is, and it has changed you as a person. You don't act the way you used to, and now you are offended by everything and don't agree with the way anyone else does anything. I just don't understand what happened. I encourage you to look at some of the comments on the original post to prove to you that 99% of people would have done exactly what I did in the situation, and I was not just being harsh. There have to be consequences for bad behavior, or else you are doing your kids a disservice, which is not kind on your part. When you read the comments, some have good parenting advice and others are harsh. But hey, that's life. It's not so gentle. Update. Allison, not her real name, finally reached out to me to talk. She read some of the comments and saw that most people think she is neglecting her kids due to her parenting choices. She asked if I agreed. I told her I think there could definitely be some changes in the way she parents. She said she had tried gentle parenting, but now realizes that she has gotten it wrong. I asked what her plan for moving forward was. She apologized for the way her kids acted and said she and her husband have lost friends over the way her kids act, because people don't want to be around them. She said this whole ordeal has been a wake-up call. Allison said she's going to try a different parenting style since gentle parenting didn't pan out very well for her kids. She said she's going to enforce punishment and consequences, but there is still no corporal punishment. I said I think that's great. Her worry is that the kids won't take it well, and it will cause even more problems. I told her they just have to get used to it. Apparently her husband was never in agreement with the gentle parenting, and it has also caused marital issues due to the fact they didn't see eye to eye on it. Now that her husband is happy, she's finally come to some form of consequence and punishment for their kids. I told her I think she's making a very wise decision. I'm still not happy about what her kids did to my house and dog, but the fact that she's willing to change her parenting style so that doesn't happen again makes me feel a lot less angry. And yes, I got Allison's permission to post this update. We really were able to work things out. She really is a good person. She just had a lapse in judgment in parenting. Edit. Since this will be the last update or post on this issue by me, I wanted to say something about the permissive parenting versus gentle parenting styles that a lot of people commented about. Gentle parenting, as everyone is explaining in the comments, sounds like the kid does something wrong. Then the parent asks how they feel, then redirects them to a different task or activity, maybe telling them no, but maybe they don't. And they call the redirection to a different task or activity the discipline or natural consequence part of gentle parenting. That is the exact same thing as permissive parenting, because there is still no legitimate punishment or consequence. I'll agree that my sister wasn't doing the form of gentle parenting everyone was describing, because all she did was talk about feelings and leave out the redirection and the possible, no, don't do that. But even after reading all the comments, permissive parenting and gentle parenting sound very similar, if not the exact same. If kids are taught redirection is what happens when they do something wrong, they are going to be completely shocked and confused when there are real consequences and punishment, and not just redirection or natural consequences in the real world. If they grow up and steal a car, the police arrest them, send them to jail, and make them pay a fine. They will think it's an incredibly harsh punishment and be shocked because all they were expecting was a natural consequence of returning the car to the owner and then moving on with their day. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.